Hello everyone and welcome back to this next lecture. So in the previous lecture we had written this particular access control example contract. So again all I had done was expand on this shared wallet example and instead create both a spender and a depositor role. So now we have not just an owner who can access, who can withdraw funds from the contract, but rather we also have spender and depositor. And moreover, the spender and the depositor is not just one account, but rather a role to which multiple accounts can be added. So let's come over here and demonstrate how this works. So there is still this particular warning, and I will fix this warning in the next few lectures where I will talk about the address library. So here, let's just ignore it for now. So I'm going to come over here and compile this. So again, the only reason for this is because it doesn't like this particular statement. That's perfectly fine. This is only temporary. So we now have this particular contract which is compiled and this is selected. We must specify an initial default admin. That is what is necessary for this constructor. So again, you can choose any of these. Let's just choose the very first one for simplicity. So the one who deploys this contract is the initial default admin. It can be any account, but just for simplicity, I'm going to specify this. So let's come over here and click on the deploy button. So let's expand on this and we see that it has been deployed. So if you come down here, you'll see there is now a deployed contract. So let's expand on this. You'll see that we have the two methods we have created, that is withdraw funds and deposit funds. The remaining methods, that is grant role, renounce role, revoke role, withdraw funds, all these are provided by access control. So because this contract inherits access control, we now have access to all the public methods of access control. And these are what you see in this interface. So the first things first is we need to have some balance in the contract. So for that, of course, we got a low level interaction, and here I want to show you this error because remember, in setting up this contract, let me collapse this, we have only assigned the admin for the spender and the admin for the role admin, the set role admin. We have not, however, assigned anything for this particular account. That is, we do not have any method of adding accounts yet. And that is going to be a slight problem, and I'll show you how that is. So if I were to say that I want to send ether, let's say I want to send 10 ether, this will now fail. And you will see this is access control unauthorized account. And the reason for that is this account is not yet a depositor. So you can actually come over here and have a look. So for example, if I come over to this function and I come over to has role, we can use this has role to check if this particular account indeed is a depositor. So again, for this, it needs bytes 32. So I'm just going to come up here and open up the KCAT 256 online tool. And here, let us add this depositor string. So if you have this depositor string, this is the 256-bit hash. So we come over here, add 0x. Do not forget to add the 0x because this is a byte 32 value. And we copy this over. And if I call this, you'll see the boolean is false, which means that this account that we were trying to use to deposit funds is not a depositor. And that is the reason why it failed. But there is a much more serious issue with this particular contract. Now, for instance, we have taken this default admin and we have assigned it to the default admin role. Moreover, I have said that there is now a special role admin, or rather an admin role, for both the spender and depositor accounts. However, this default admin has not been added to either of these spender admin, which means that there is no way for me to add any account to either of these two roles. Remember, it is only the admin of a role which can add and revoke accounts from a particular role. But in order for that to happen, this default admin not only has to be in the default admin role, but it also has to be added to the spender and depositor admin. And this is something that is very easy to miss whenever you are setting up a contract with access control. That is, it is very important that not only must you ensure that your initial default administrators are given access to the default admin role, but they are also added to all the different admin roles for each and every role that you have defined. Otherwise, you have now roles which are unserviceable. So for that, I'm going to come over here and make this change so that at least now we can go ahead and make our changes to the contract. Or rather, we can interact with the contract in a more sensible manner. So I'm going to say grant role, and this grant role is going to say spender admin is going to be the default admin, and the depositor admin is also going to be the default admin. So which means this default admin now has control of everything. Of course, if you do not like this, then in that case we can create potentially multiple arguments to our constructor. So we can say there is a default admin, there is a default spender admin, and a default depositor admin. So we can specify separate accounts for each and every admin role so that one account does not have access to everything. That is also perfectly okay. And I would advise you to go ahead and try it out on your own if you need to. So now that this is done, I'm going to come over here and just delete this because we are going to do it again. And let me also delete this. Let me clear out everything so that we don't have anything left. Come over here and compile it again. You have the same warning. We can ignore it for now. And we can come up here and deploy it. Right? So exactly the same thing. Let's come over here. You'll see that this is again successful, which means we should now get another deployed contract. So now that we have done this, we can now check certain other things. For example, we can do the same has role method. So for example, we can come over here, copy this, paste it here, and check if this first account has access to the depositor role. And the answer should be no, right? The answer, I think I made a mistake. I think I copied the wrong one. Now it is correct. So here in this case, I am checking if this first account has been added to the role depositor, and the answer is no, because we have not yet granted any accounts any particular roles. But in our contract, we have granted this default admin as the admin role for the spender and depositor. So that is something we can check. So if we come over here and check this other one, that is get role admin, now we should be able to check if our depositor, that is this particular first account, is the admin of the depositor role. This is something we should be able to check. So I'm going to come over here, copy this again, and make sure I put 0x and call it. And here you will see that this account, this particular one, that is bytes 32, this is the admin of the depositor account. And the admin of the depositor account is this depositor admin. So if we come over here and compare with this particular one, we will see that these two should be exactly the same. And I would encourage you to do this comparison. So the role admin has now been set up, which means the depositor admin has now been assigned, which means now we can compare whether we have now access to this depositor admin. Now, what are we trying to do here? We are trying to say, does our account have access to this particular role? that is the depositor admin. So let me come over here and paste it again, has role. And this time, delete this. I'm going to paste the depositor admin by 32 hash. I think I made a mistake. And now it is true. I had forgotten to add the 0x. So remember, whenever you are copying things over from KCAT to 56, make sure that you add a 0x. They should have actually put a 0x here, but they are not doing so. So remember to put a 0x, otherwise you will get this error, right? So you will see here, what have we done? We are seeing that because we have deployed the contract, and in the constructor itself, we are adding this default admin as an admin to everything. That means we are assigning this default admin as the default admin of the entire contract, as well as the admin of both the spender and depositor roles. So here we are seeing that that is indeed true. And because that is the case, now we can add, we now have admin rights. So what does that mean? We can now, this particular account can add other accounts to the spender and depositor roles. So let's start with the depositor. Let's start with the spender, because in this case we would like to add, or rather we would like to add another depositor. So for example, we have said before that these two accounts, the first two accounts are the parent accounts, and the remaining two accounts are the children accounts, right? So the parents accounts are the ones that are going to be depositing funds into the account, and the account number 3 and 4 are the children account who should be able to withdraw funds from the account. So what this means is I'm going to go and click on this grant role method, and for grant role we are now going to add an account. Now this is going to be depositor. So let's come over here and delete this depositor admin, and this is the hash for the depositor account, depositor role. So again, do not forget to add 0x and add this. And now we are going to copy over the second account. And if I copy over the second account and I click on transact, we should now get a success. And this means that now another role has also been added. Now there is one very important thing to remember, and this is an important got you. For example, if we say has role, in this case, if I come over here and I copy this depositor role again, you will see that this account, first account, is not a depositor, because this is only the admin. The admin doesn't mean that it is actually added to the role itself. The admin is a separate role. On the contrary, if I go over to the second account and I paste this here, now I will get a true, because that is what we just did just now. By using grant role, the first account, which is the admin of the depositor account, has added another account as a depositor. So which means account number 2 is a depositor, but account number 1 is only a depositor admin. But we can always fix that, because the admin can always add itself to the account. So therefore, let's go ahead and do that as well. So I'm going to come over here and click on grant role again. And in grant role, let me delete this. And I will come over here again, copy this depositor, make sure you add 0x, and now I will copy the first account itself. So which means the account number 1 is adding itself to the depositor role. And it can do so because account number 1 is the admin for the depositor, and that has been done in the constructor itself. So if I come over here and click on transact, this should be a success. And if we come over here and check for has role, and this time let me delete this, paste it here, and just to make sure that we are checking for depositor, let me come over here, copy this hash again, make sure I put 0x, and if I call, now we get true. Which means now both accounts, account number 1 and account number 2, are depositors in this particular contract. So now that we have done this, we can now have to add a spender. Now, well, before that, let's add some money to this account. So let's come over to low level interaction. And in the low level interaction, let's put 5 ether from both of them. So the first account will put 5 ether, the second account will put 5 ether. This way we can confirm that these two accounts are indeed depositors. So again, no call data. Let's put ether and I'll put 5 ether. And let's come over and click on transact, and this was successful, and you see the balance is increased. And the balance of account number 1 has decreased. It is now 94 ether. We can do the same with account number 2 as well. So here too, I'm just going to come over here, leave the 5 here as it is, or just maybe change it to 6, just to make sure that we know the numbers are different. Click on transact. You see that it was successful. Balance is increased to 11 ether. Now, just to make sure that is not allowed by anyone else, let's go to account number 3. Or no, let's not go to account number 3 because account number 3 is a child account. Let's go to account number 6. In account number 6, let's say I go and click on transact, and now we get an error. The reason is account number 6 is not a depositor. You see, this is now saying that this particular account needs this role, and this role is this depositor role. It has not been added to the role. Only those who have been added to the role can make this transaction. So this one bit has been fixed. Now the next part is we must now add a spender. So let me just collapse this and expand on this. Here we have to now give grant role again. And for grant role, we have to now come over and check for who will be the spender. So in this case, of course, let's go back to account number 1. Account number 1 is an admin to both the spender role as well. So for example, if you come over here, you will see that I've added this default admin to both the spender and the depositor admins. So which means that this account has the ability to add accounts to the spender role as well. So I'm going to delete these two so that we start with a clean slate, and let's come over here and change this to spender. So this is the byte 32 hash of the spender. So let's copy this. Again, do not forget to put 0x and paste the remaining here. Now I have to add the third one. So I'm going to paste it here and click on transact, and you see, oh, I had forgotten, I was putting this value 6. This is the reason why. It was not failing because of anything else. It was failing because I was sending funds. Now here, this is an error which can be a little bothersome sometimes. If there is a method which is not marked payable, then in that case, sending money will fail. Because this method cannot receive funds. So for example, if we come over here and we go to the grant role method, you'll see that the grant role method doesn't have the payable keyword. And if it does not have the payable keyword, it cannot receive funds. And here we are trying to send funds because I had put 6 ether from before when I was transferring funds to the account. So this was the mistake. Let's just go and click on it again. And now it is successful. So remember, if a method is not marked as payable, you cannot send funds to it, right? For a method to receive funds, it has to be marked as payable. So now that we have this, we can now check if the third account has the role of spender. So let's come over here and look for this has role. And in has role, I'm going to copy this over, delete it, put 0x, delete this as well, and let's come over here and copy this. So we just granted role account number 3 the role of spender, and if you click, the answer is true. So our grant role method worked. Let's just in case, supposing I copy account number 4. Now we should get a false. The reason is because account number 4 has not yet been added as a spender. So if I call, it says false because account number 4 is not a spender yet. So we can always change that, and this is an advantage. We don't have to have a single owner. With the ownable contract, we have to have a single owner. Now we can have multiple accounts added to the same role. So which means we can come over back to account number 1, and in account number 1 I am going to keep this same one, let's say grant rule, and I'm going to delete this, and instead I'm going to add this 4th account. So this 4th account is now the younger sibling, let's say. So this younger sibling is now also going to be added to this spender role. So this is also successful. And just to verify, we can come over here, click on has role, come down here, and we can now click on the 4th address. And this 4th address should also be 2. So you see, this is how we can add accounts as and how we please. So now that we've done this, let's go and try to withdraw some funds. So if we go and try to withdraw funds, and let's now choose account number 3, we should now be able to withdraw funds from the account. So let's put an amount. Now this amount has to be in way. So I will use ether to way calculation. And here let me put 1 ether. And let me add this value. So if I click on transact, it is successful. And you will see that the balance of account number 3 has increased. So in case you are wondering, let's go and pick some random account and let's try to do this again. And you will see now it fails. The reason is because this random account has not yet been added to the spender role. So unless you add an account to the spender role, that account cannot withdraw funds from this wallet. So this is now done. Now there's one last one, and that is we should now remove a role as well. So let's go to account number 4 and let's try to withdraw some funds. So let's click on this and you'll see it was successful. Account number 4 also has 1 ether more than before. Now I'm going to revoke account number 3. Account number 3 has now graduated. Doesn't need this account, doesn't need this shared wallet anymore. For that, we must go back to account number 1, who is the admin of the spender role. And now we're going to revoke a particular role. So to revoke a role, we just have to come over here. We have to specify the role, which is out here. So I will just put 0x, paste it, and I am going to revoke account number 3. So account number 3 is no longer a spender. So I'm going to click on it and it says yes. Now I'm going to go to account number 3 and try to withdraw funds again. So let me go to withdraw funds and try the method again. And now you see there is an error. The reason is because the account number 3 has been removed from the spender role. It no longer has the privileges of withdrawing funds from the contract. Now only account 4 can continue to withdraw funds from the contract. And we can try that out here. So we can come over here, click on transact, and you will see it was successful. So now another ether has been added to account number 4. So in this manner, go ahead, play around with this contract, add and remove different accounts from this particular list to this particular account, to various various roles. You can have different depositors, you can have different spenders. Also you can play around with the admins. All these things, go ahead, try it out, and in this case you can verify that we have much more control over the contract. So if any of this was not clear to you, please post in the Q&A forum and I'll be happy to help you. Otherwise, I will see you in the next lecture where I will quickly conclude on whatever we have done. Thank you so much for listening and see you soon. Goodbye for now.